Now, before you design your app, website, or even open your first social media profile, you need to close a few things like your brand's logo, your brand's name. You need to register that name, and you have to make a brand identity around your company's name. This is not done by UX designers or web designers. You need a marketing designer, someone who specializes in building brand identities. So, whatever brand identity your marketing designer makes, that same identity is carried forward in your application as well as in your website. So, on an average, your marketing team is going to lock a few colors, a specific vibe, a certain kind of imagery, and then your website is going to pick elements from it. Your app is also going to pick some elements from that entire brand identity. Now, this entire rule is slightly fluid because it's not like your app is going to look exactly like your website or your app needs to follow everything that is specified in your brand guidelines, but it should surely look like they all belong to the same family. So if your brand designer says that your primary color is this one specific shade of blue, that same shade is recommended to be there in your app and your website as well. Therefore, when you're working on your initial drafts of the app, make sure that you have your branding done in the first place. Make sure that you have your visual designer or some kind of a marketing designer who can help you close your brand's name, the logo, and the primary colors, because without that it's going to be very difficult for you to make your app look like it is from your brand. So what do I mean by having a brand identity? See, when you hire a marketing designer as a freelancer or a full-time employee, that designer basically asks you a few questions. For example, how do you want people to feel about your brand? What kind of vibe should it have? Should it have a luxurious vibe or a happy vibe or a peaceful vibe? And according to the vibe that you want to set, according to the kind of image and the kind of experience that you want your brand to portray, they give you a certain set of colors, certain kind of typefaces. A lot of people call typefaces as fonts, but the right word for it is a typeface. Now, this step is very, very important because a lot of entrepreneurs try to save money when it comes to hiring a good brand identity designer. This step is extremely foundational, so I would recommend you to not penny pinch when it comes to getting your brand designer on board, because this is something that you cannot change. Whatever logo, typefaces, colors you choose right now are going to be carried forward for a very, very long time. You can change how your website looks like, you can change how your app looks like, but the foundational stuff, like the kind of vibe that your brand has, it is very difficult to change these things later on. So if you can't afford to get a full-time employee for your marketing design, at least hire someone on a freelance basis or on a part-time basis, because that person will come, ask you the right questions, create your brand identity, and give you a PDF or some sort of a deck that would have guidelines, so your full-time junior designers can follow those guidelines. Now, to get a brief idea of what do I mean by brand identity, I would recommend you to go to Behance, and in Behance search bar just type for brand identity project. So you will see a lot of student work, a lot of professional work where people would showcase how they have built a specific brand around a specific case study. So you will see how they declare their colors, how do they make mock-ups, how do they show how this brand color is going to look like on documents, on pitch decks, on hoardings, all kinds of things. You don't have to do all of it. I think the basic things that you need to get started is, of course, your basic palette, your basic colors, and your typography. If that is sorted, you can have a lot of other stuff finalized later on. But to begin with your app, without logo, without name, without primary colors, it's going to be very difficult to make your app look yours. To make your search for inspiration easier, put the keyword of your industry next to the word brand identity. So if you're making an app which is in the healthcare industry, just go on Behance and type healthcare brand identity. If it's education, education brand identity. Collect your references, because you will need these references when you're discussing with your designer, because you might say that, hey, I like this part of this project, I maybe like this kind of color. So maybe you can collect all these references and tell your designer that, hey, this is what I like, this is the kind of mood board that I want to have. So a mood board is basically this big collection of references that sort of remind you of the vision that you have for your brand. So different brands would have a different mood board. If you want to have a healthy brand, then your mood board would have a lot of green, a lot of trees, a lot of, fresh artwork. But if you want to go ahead with something which is very luxurious or very modern, then your mood board is going to have very sleek images. So you can make a mood board on Pinterest as well. You can also collect your inspiration on Behance as well. All of these websites allow you to save these different projects. or you can just simply take your screenshots and keep them anywhere you want. The point is, you have to collect references, because when you're communicating with your marketing designer, you need to show them what you truly like. You can hire designers from Behance, you can always get them from LinkedIn as well. What you need to check is, make sure that that person has built proper brand identities, see their decks, see if their aesthetic and their visual design is catering to your needs, and only then get them on board. Now, during this process, you might come across a marketing designer who's really good. You can get them on freelance in the beginning and try to get them full time once you have some revenue coming in, because trust me, it's very difficult to come across good people. So if you find someone, please try to keep them for the long term, because it's not just about building your brand identity. You need someone in your marketing team, a designer in your marketing team, that's going to help you put out your social media posts, your pitch decks, your branding documents, all kinds of things. There's a lot of stuff that is required from a marketing front as well. And in the longer run, this marketing designer has to work closely with the product team, the product designer as well, so that your websites and your product have the same vibe. All the promotional articles that you send out also have enough knowledge of the product. So in good companies, the product team and the marketing team work together. The product designer, the website designer, and the marketing designer, they all regularly meet and they discuss, so that everyone knows what is happening in each department. So to summarize, while you're building your app, please make sure that you kickstart your brand identity process in parallel, so that while you're wireframing, while you're researching your problem statement, someone is there working on your brand's visual design. Once your identity is locked, it's time to design your first website. In the next video, we'll cover a basic step-by-step process of how a website is made. So I'll see you in the next video. If you like this video, make sure you click on like and hit the subscribe button. I regularly upload videos on UX design, marketing, and storytelling.